Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and tonight I'm doing something I haven't done in quite a while, and that's a comparison video. And this isn't really a shootout necessarily, it's a comparison of 4 different headphones that are in a similar price category, and they do sound quite a bit different. In my opinion, none of these are bad headphones. They're all very good headphones that I like a lot, but they do have quite a bit of difference in the sound signature. So I'm not really here tonight to tell you which is best, because that's going to depend on who's listening to it. I'm going to point out how they do in each of 31 different categories and let you make the decision which is the right headphone for you, because what's right for me might not at all be right for you. So me telling you which headphone I think is the best isn't going to tell you which headphone is for you. So that's going to be up to you based on what I have to say about the different categories. And like I said, these are all great headphones. So to start off, I want to list the 4 headphones. The first is the LSA, or the Dan Clark Audio Aeon 2 open back. The second is the Lsa Hp2. The third is the Kennerton Vali, and this would be the 2019 version. And the last on my list, and there's a reason I'm putting this on the list, this is the Hifiman HE-560. I realize this isn't currently made, but I believe this is the second version of this headphone, and I think there are still 3rd and 4th versions that are available. I heard someone just bought one just last week. They're a little bit different, and I don't think they're sold directly through Hifiman. I think they're sold through some different sources. But the reason I put this in the comparison is I really like this headphone a lot. Of the Hifiman Sandara HE-500 and 560, I really do like this one the best. Of course, it is very power hungry and it needs a proper amp to sound best, or sound its best. But I wanted to throw this in as kind of a reference, you know, to compare to the others, something that is more common, more people know. I did want to point out that this headphone is slightly modified. It has the cloth removed behind the grill, and it does have Kennerton ECL01 ear pads on it in place of the stock ear pads, which in my opinion gives it a slightly better sound, a little bit more weight to the bass, and it does make it more comfortable, and the stock ear pads just aren't that durable. Also, I wanted to point out that this was originally in the same price category. This originally sold for $8.99. By the time I bought it, it was $4.99, and now some of the, I think, 3rd and 4th versions of this, I think I've seen them as low as like $2.75. So actually it's a great deal if you can find one. But anyway, I did want to mention the prices of all these. The Dan Clark Audio Aeon 2 open back currently sells for $8.99. The Lsa Hp2 currently sells for $7.99. The Kennerton Vali 2019 version currently sells for $1,014. And like I said, this headphone, the Hifiman, if you can find one, there's a lot of used ones around, and I've seen the 3rd and 4th version going for pretty cheap. So anyway, I did want to show you each of the headphones with a little more detail. This is the Aeon 2 open back, and this is unique. It does have a fold up type of headband, so it can store in a real small case. The grills, it's an open back, it's planar magnetic. The grills are aluminum, I believe. The body, I'm not sure if it's plastic or aluminum. And then the ear pads are a synthetic leather made out of Japan. And the headband adjusts by sliding these up and down here. This would be the Lsa Hp2. The ear cups are entirely made of wood. This one has 2 different types. I think this is a maple, and maybe a dark walnut or something like that. It has a different kind of self-adjusting headband with real lambskin leather on the strap, and the ear pads are real lambskin leather. This is a Kennerton Vali. It has a similar headband to the LSA, and I did want to mention that the LSA is made by Kennerton Audio out of Russia for LSA. So this is the Kennerton Vali 2019 version, and the ear cups are entirely made of wood. This is, I believe, a maple. The grills are magnesium, I believe, and the self-adjusting head strap and the ear pads are real lambskin leather. And then last we have the Hifiman HE-560, and it has an adjusting head strap and swivel, what do you call them, yokes. And there was a problem at one time with these breaking, but I've had these now for several years and they've held up for me. I did change the ear pads. Like I said, these are Kennerton leather ear pads, lambskin leather. Improves the comfort to me, and I did remove the cloth from the inside of the grill, which adds just a slight amount of sparkle to the treble. Oh, I broke this down into 31 categories, and I'm going to go through one category at a time, and I apologize if this video gets long, and give my rating, but this is my opinion. So, you know, this isn't written in stone or anything. One person might think something totally different than the next. My first category is appearance, and personally, I think that the Kennerton Vali is the best looking of the four headphones. I really like the wood ear cups. I really like the grill. I like, you know, the leather ear pads. I just think it's a very good looking headphone. After that, I'd give second place to the Aeon, third to the HP2, and I would say probably last place to the Hifiman HE-560. It's an okay looking headphone, but it's never been my favorite really. Going to build quality, without a doubt, Kennerton Vali scores the highest on that. Just exceptional build quality, but actually, I would say the HP2 is right up there with it. They're both built by Kennerton, and as far as I can see, they're both flawless and made of real wood and very nice materials. I would say the Aeon would be in second place after a two-way tie between the Vali and the HP2, and then the Hifiman would take third place in that category. The weight, the lightest of the four is the Aeon at 327 grams. The HP2 comes in at 364 grams. The Vali at a much heavier 522 grams. And the HE-560, and this would be with the Kennerton ear pads, comes in at 365, almost identical to the HP2. The headband, to tell you the truth, I think I like the Hifiman headband the best. It has click adjustments. Well, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I probably don't. I like the way it adjusts, but it's got a little bit too much clamping force in my opinion. So I'm going to give the win on that to the Aeon actually. It has a very nice headband, and it's just very comfortable the way it's designed. Although I did have a couple times the adjustment has changed on me a little bit, so you gotta be kind of careful moving around, or you might have to readjust it, but very simple to do that. And then I give it a tie between the HP2 and the Vali that use the same self-adjusting headband. The ear pads, I really like the ear pads that come on the Kennerton Vali, and those are the same exact ear pads that I put on the Hifiman, but the stock ear pads I did not like at all on the Hifiman. So going by what came on these headphones, I would put the Vali at number 1, the HP2 at number 2. The Aeon has very soft comfortable ear pads, but they're synthetic, and I don't know if they're going to hold up the way the leather ones do from the two made by Kennerton. And then the stock ear pads that came on the 560, just really wasn't crazy about those at all, and they didn't hold up. They only held up a couple of years till they pretty much fell apart. Overall comfort, I'm going to give to the Aeon, and then I'm going to put the HP2 in second place. The 560, I'm going to give third place, even though the clamping force is just slightly too much, but they are light, and especially with the Kennerton ear pads, they are pretty comfortable. And then the Vali is close behind, and the only reason I gave it last place in comfort is it is about 150 grams heavier than the other three, and that doesn't really bother me, but some people are pretty sensitive to weight. Cable connectors. The two made by Kennerton, the HP2 and the Vali, both use standard 3.5 millimeter plugs on the headphone, and I really like those. I haven't had any problems, and there are a lot of cables using that, so I can pretty much interchange any cable from a lot of different headphones with those. The cable connectors on the Aeon are very nice. They look sort of like 4-pin mini XLRs, but they're not. They actually push in and lock, and they are nice, but the problem I have with them is that they're not interchangeable with 4-pin mini XLRs, and I don't have any other cables that fit this headphone, so I was only able to use it with its single-ended plug on, and not able to use it with from a balanced output of my amp. I gave cable connectors a third place, or last. I tied the two Kennerton models, and then the Aeon, and then I'd give third place to the Hifiman. It uses 2.5 millimeter connectors. Hifiman later changed to 3.5. There's nothing really wrong with the 2.5, but they seem a little bit fragile to me. The cables, all four of these headphones really had nice cables. They all came with cables roughly in the 2 meter to 7 foot range. They were all soft, they were flexible, they were all pretty nice, but I'm going to give the #1 spot to the HP2, #2 to the Aeon, #3 to the Vali, and #4 to the 560. But not a whole lot of difference, and none of them came with bad cables. Durability, it's hard to tell. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, none of these headphones have broken on me. I haven't had any problems with any of them. Nothing with the cables, nothing with the headphones, nothing is coming apart. So what I'm going to do is just go by how long I've had these, and during that time, no problems. So the HE-560 I've actually had for about probably 3 years, and not had any problems. I know Hifiman doesn't have the best reputation for durability, but I haven't had any problems with it. And even the HE-500, which I've had for about probably close to 8 years now, I've had no problems with. So anyway, I'm going to give that #1 in this category. I'm going to give the Vali #2 because I've had it a couple of years with no problems. I'm going to give the HP2 third place. I've had it, I don't know, about 3 or 4 months, maybe a little bit longer, I can't remember, and I've had no problems. And the Aeon I've had for 2 months with no problems. Excuse me. Price-wise, right now I would say the first place is going to go to the Hifiman, because you can pick up the 3rd and 4th versions of these pretty cheap, and or used. So I mean, I've seen them as low as like $250, $275. So price wise, you're not going to beat that. Second place goes to the HP2 at $799. Third place to the Aeon at $899, and fourth place to the Vali at I believe is currently $1,014. Getting into the sound, before I talk about the sound, I did want to mention the equipment I'm using. And I'm starting out with a Cambridge Audio CD player, 540C, as a transport only. I'm using both the Benchmark, what's the name of it? The DAC1 as a DAC, and I'm running a digital signal from the CD player. Anyway, into the Benchmark DAC1 and also into the Topping E30. I'm switching back and forth between those two DACs. And then the amps I've used would be the HP2 amp out of the Benchmark DAC1, the Audio GD Master 9, the Felix Audio Echo, which is an OTL Type 2 amp, and the Emotiva A100 Basex amp, which really drives the Hifiman 560 to its limit. So the headphone does need a lot of power, and that amp puts out a lot. So anyway, getting into the sound, first I wanted to describe the tone balance of each. And the Aeon I would describe as having a slight V shape to the tone balance, a little bit of bump in the mid bass, a little bit of bump in the mid treble, and it basically has kind of an overall warm and slightly bassy sound. The HP2 I would describe as pretty much dead neutral. The Vali I would describe as having a little bit of a mid bass bump and also sort of warm and on the bassy side of neutral. And the HE-560 I would describe as basically neutral with a slightly bright treble, just a little bit of brightness in the treble compared to what I would consider neutral. Accuracy, as far as the most neutral headphone, would go to the HP2, then to the HE-560, and then would be sort of a tie between the Aeon and the Vali. Bass impact, or now let's go with bass extension first. Bass extension, I would give first place to the HP2. The HP2 actually has the best, cleanest, lowest sub bass of any headphone I've heard. It's not emphasized, it's just there. It just goes really low and it's really solid. So bass extension, in my opinion, goes to the HP2. The HE-560 from Hifiman actually has, in my opinion, very good bass extension. Once again, not emphasized, but it is there. But it needs an amp with a lot of power, a lot of current capability to get that sub bass out of it. If you underpower it, the sub bass is pretty much non-existent. And then also the Aeon and the Vali both have very good sub bass, and I give them a tie. So all four of these headphones actually have good sub bass. Getting into bass impact, which would be the amount of punch to the bass, I'm actually going to give that to the HP2. It doesn't have the most bass. The Aeon and Vali have more, but the HP2 is more dynamic, so it has a little more slam, a little more punch in the bass. I would give second place to the Aeon, that has the most weight to the bass of any of these four headphones. Then the Vali, which is slightly behind the Aeon, and then the number 4 spot would be the Hifiman. The 560 just does not have a lot of weight to the mid bass. Some people complain that the mid bass is a little thin. I think it's okay. I would describe it as neutral, but it has the least punch to the bass of the four, in my opinion. Excuse me a second. Getting into bass control, which would be the tightness of the bass and lack of muddiness or distortion. And I would say the tightest, most controlled bass of the four would go to the HP2. Then I would say next would be the 560, and then it doesn't have a whole lot of bass, but it is very tight and well controlled. Then I would say the Vali would be third place, and then I'm going to have to give the Aeon the fourth place. It has good bass, but it's not the world's tightest bass or best control. It can get, I wouldn't say muddy, but it's just not the last word in tightness in bass. It's still good, but the others are better. Getting into mid-range clarity, I'm mostly basing this on vocals, both male and female vocals, the clarity of their voice and the detail and texture in their voice. And I would give first place in that category to the HP2. I would give second place to the HE-560. I would give third place to the Aeon, and I would give fourth place to the Vali. Treble extension, which is how high the treble reaches, the frequency it reaches, I would give first place in that category to the Hifiman, the 560. Some people consider the treble a little bright. I actually like it. I like my treble slightly on the bright side, maybe because of my age. I'm assuming that my sensitivity to bright treble has gone down a little bit over the years, so I don't mind it. Some people find it a little bright. I would say a slightly more neutral, or I would say, yeah, slightly more neutral treble, but still with good extension, would be the HP2. And then the Aeon and the Vali I would tie for third. They both have decent extension, but don't go quite as, they roll off a little bit more than either the Hifiman or the Lsa HP2. Treble clarity, I would give to the HP2. It just has crystal clear treble. Next, I would go with the 560, and then once again a tie between the Aeon and the Vali for third place. Treble smoothness, I would give to the HP2, and then a tie for second place between the Aeon and the Vali. And then third place is going to have to go to the Hifiman. Its treble can get just a little bit harsh at times. If the recording is really good, the treble is good, but if it's not the best recording in the world, the treble can get a little harsh on the Hifiman. Next category is detail and resolution, and I'm going to give that to the HP2 by LSA. It has incredible detail, up there with any headphone I've heard of any price. And not far behind would be the HE-560 by Hifiman. Even all the way down to the Sundara. All the Hifimans I've heard, the 500 and especially the Aeon, have really, really good detail. So I'm going to give second place in detail and resolution to the Hifiman, and then tied for third would be the Aeon and the Vali. They both have good detail, but they're just not ultra detailed like the LSA or the Hifiman. Soundstage, I want to start with width, and I think of these four, the headphone with the most width to the soundstage is going to be the Hifiman. And then second, I would give a tie between the HP2 and the Vali, and then just slightly behind, and it still has very good width for what's called an open back, but in my opinion is almost a closed back headphone. Third place I would give to the Aeon, but like I said, it still has a very good width to the soundstage. I have no complaints about it at all. Soundstage depth, I would say actually I think that the HP2 has the most depth and layering to the soundstage, and then the Hifiman would be second, and then a tie for third between the Aeon and the Vali. Soundstage height, goes back to the Hifiman again. I think it has the most height, where I'm hearing sounds from way up here and even way down here. It's not a big difference, but I think it's slightly better than the HP2, which I give second place to. I give third place to the Aeon and fourth place to the Vali. The Vali just, it's not bad, but it just doesn't have as much height to the soundstage as a few of the others. Imaging is good on all four headphones in my opinion, but I'd give a slight edge to the HP2 and the Hifiman. I think they image slightly better than the Aeon and the Vali, just a little bit more precise and a little bit better separation than the other two. Dynamics, I would say the most dynamic of these four headphones. With me, it was a pretty easy decision. I think the HP2 from LSA is the most dynamic of these four headphones. And then I would say the Aeon and the Hifiman HE-560 would tie for second. And then I'm going to give third to the Vali. It's just kind of a soft, easygoing sound. And once again, I want to remind you, this is the 2019 version of the Vali. The original Vali is a completely different headphone. In fact, that's probably the most dynamic headphone I've ever heard. So quite a bit of difference between the 2019 Vali and the older Vali. Getting into listening fatigue, and the way I would describe that is a headphone that you can listen to for a long time without your ears getting tired, a headphone that lacks harshness, a headphone that isn't too analytical or over detailed would rate high as far as listening fatigue. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to make that confusing. Okay, to me, the Aeon and the Vali score the highest, and they're both kind of easygoing, laid back, and do not wear out my ears. I can listen to either of those for hours if I'm just want to relax and I'm not looking for every last detail in the music. Those would be my go-to headphones, the Aeon and the Vali. They're just a little bit more laid back, and an over-detailed headphone or an overly dynamic headphone can wear you out and cause listener fatigue. And so second place after a two-way tie for first, I would give that to the HP2. It's very detailed, almost analytical, but it's very clean and smooth. So it's pretty, I would say it's average as far as listening fatigue. And then I would give last place in that category to the Hifiman because it's analytical, super detailed, and the treble is a little bit bright and can get a little bit harsh at times if the recordings aren't good. So that would score the worst of the four as far as listening fatigue. Forgiveness, and what I mean by that is a headphone's ability to not point out all the flaws in a less than perfect recording. And an analytical headphone is going to do that. It's going to point out all the flaws. So in forgiveness, I would rate the Aeon and the Vali give those first place. I would say the HP2 would be a second place, and then the Hifiman would be fourth place because the Hifiman, once again, it's analytical and the treble's bright, and if a recording isn't good, it's going to point it out. It will reveal less than perfection in your recording. Getting towards the end of this, and one of my last categories is the fun factor. And that's basically just, is it fun to listen to the headphone? Is it enjoyable? If you're not looking for the most accurate sound, you're not looking for the most detail, you're just looking for a fun headphone that makes most music sound good, I'm going to give that one to the Aeon. I'm going to give second place to the HP2 just because it's very detailed but very clean, and to me that's a lot of fun to listen to. I'm going to give third to the Hifiman and fourth to the Vali. And the reason why, it's not that the Vali isn't fun, but it's just got kind of a soft, easygoing sound, and it's very enjoyable for a long listen, but it doesn't get your attention the way, say, the Aeon does in the beginning. The Aeon's got kind of a V shape to the tone balance, and most people consider that a little more fun than a neutral tone balance. Next is, are they analytical? And that would be just, a very detailed headphone that's going to point out any flaw in the recording and kind of unforgiving. I would say that the HP2 and the Hifiman are both borderline analytical. They're up there pretty high. And then I would say the Aeon and the Vali, no, they are not analytical. They are more laid back, more easygoing, and just more pleasant to listen to if you're not looking for every last detail. Efficiency is actually my last category, and there's a pretty big difference between these. The HP2 and the Vali are both very easy to drive. You can drive them with any desktop amp, probably just about any portable, and probably even a phone. The Aeon is quite a bit harder to drive. It's up in Hifiman Sundara range, where you need a decent desktop amp to drive the Aeon. I would not recommend it for anything but a very powerful portable device. It would not recommend it for a phone. And then the hardest to drive would be the HE-560, which is the hardest to drive headphone that I personally have, and I would recommend probably about 3 watts per channel into 32 ohms for that headphone. It can get loud when underpowered, but it will sound thin, it will lack sub bass, and it can sound harsh if it's underpowered. It is a headphone that just thrives on power. So you're definitely going to need an amp with some power behind it. It sounds best on either my Emotiva or on the Audio GD Master 9. It also sounded really good on the Wells Audio Milo, which just has unlimited power. So a hard to drive headphone. So those are my categories. What it comes down to, if I add up all the points, in my opinion, my favorite is the Lsa HP2. And if you saw my last video, I did give it an award for Headphone of the Year. So yeah, in my opinion, that one is my favorite, but it might not be your favorite. Okay, like I said at the beginning, these are all 4 very good headphones. If you're not looking for a super detailed analytical headphone, if you're not looking for a very neutral headphone, you want something a little warmer, a little bassier, you might find the Aeon 2 or the Vali a lot more enjoyable. In fact, I find the two of those very similar in sound. They're not exactly the same, but they do have a similar sound. They're both a little on the warm and bassy side of neutral, and they're both kind of laid back and easy going. And if that's what you're looking for, you're probably not going to want the Hifiman, and you might not want the HP2 if you're looking for a warm, laid back sound. Okay, the Hifiman is the closest to what I would describe to analytical. So if you're looking for every last detail, the Hifiman's great, but it's not quite as clean sounding as the HP2. Price wise, you're probably not, if you can find a good used one or one of the versions 3 or 4 of the 560, the other 3 aren't going to compete in price. So in my opinion, you can't go wrong with any of these headphones for my personal taste, I like a neutral headphone. I like very good detail, and I like it very clean. And yeah, the HP2 works out best for me, but I know that headphones are very subjective, and if you are looking for something that's not quite as analytical, something a little more forgiving, something that you can listen to your entire music collection with, I would seriously take a look at either the Aeon or the Vali from Kennerton. So yeah, check out, depending on what you're looking for, I would make the decision yourself, not take my opinion on this. So this has gotten a lot longer than I planned, so I'm going to wrap this up now. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. If please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you are all welcome to join us over at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. We are now, I think we're approaching 10,000 members, so please check us out on Facebook. And once again, thank you for watching my video.